They uncovered shocking secrets in the book of Daniel that will change everything. Few knew what truly happened that night in ancient Babylon. The moon cast eerie shadows over the royal palace, as whispers of dread danced through the chambers. Daniel, a captive in this strange land, stood at the edge of the king's banquet hall, his heart pounding in rhythm with the clinking of golden goblets. Eyes darted nervously, filled with uncertainty and fear. The king, Nebuchadnezzar, ruled with iron will and tyrannical fervor. Flashes of candlelight flickered across polished marble, illuminating faces filled with gluttony and arrogance. They had no idea what was coming. The banquet was just a cover. Behind the veil of festivities lay secrets buried deeper than the foundation of the temple itself. As Daniel surveyed the room, he felt a strange weight in the air, a tension thick enough to slice. He had known visions, dreams that unraveled the very fabric of reality. What those dreams foretold was both terrifying and miraculous. Could he dare to speak? The weight of fate hung over him, tethered to the very throne he now served. Others at the banquet laughed, unaware of the calling that pulsed in Daniel's veins. He had seen empires rise and fall, creatures beastly and divine. His spirit wrestled with fear and destiny, caught in a divine tug-of-war. The heart of Babylon pulsed around him, but could he navigate its treacherous waters? A sudden crash interrupted the revelry. The massive doors shattered open, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness. Gasps echoed through the hall. Was it a messenger from the gods? Or something more malignant? The room fell silent, all eyes drawn to the shadow that glided forward. Daniel's thoughts raced. Every moment felt charged, electric. He realized that once he uncovered the truth, nothing would ever be the same. What lay ahead? Prophecy? A curse? The very certainty of their doom? His mind flashed to the words he had received in his visions. A great stone would come, shattering the image of pride, toppling kingdoms with a mere touch. Could he unveil this truth before it was too late? He trembled, a lump forming in his throat. Just then the figure lifted its hood. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Who was this bearer of secrets? The answer hung in the air, heavy and ominous. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. A stillness swept through the hall, heavy and thick, as the figure revealed its face, a visage that seemed to flicker between shadow and light. The crowd remained frozen, caught in a moment where the divine intertwined with the mundane. Daniel's heart raced even quicker now, as memories of his visions surged within him. Who stood before them, this harbinger of truth and fear? Write these words, the figure spoke, its voice echoing like thunder reverberating in a distant storm. For they shall hold the key to understanding your fate. The air around Daniel crackled with intensity. The message was clear, and yet its meaning felt like a riddle wrapped in enigma. He strained to listen as the figure began to recount the historical tapestry leading to that very moment, a powerful story of kings, empires, and sins that echoed through time. Each tale stitched together threads of prophecy, shimmering with a mix of dread and hope. The banquet hall transformed, morphing into visions of a time long before, when the world was young and the heart of man was untainted. Know this, the figure continued, your arrogance shall be your downfall, as the great image wrought from desire shall be dismantled by a single humble stone. There was both a warning and an invitation in those words, a beckoning to awaken from their indulgent stupor. The crowd began to murmur, a wave of confusion crashing against the shores of their revelry. Daniel, entranced yet rooted to the spot, felt the power of the organization of these thoughts inside him. The figure turned its gaze towards him, and Daniel understood that he was summoned to speak. In his heart, a rivalry brewed, the desire for truth warred against fear of rejection. Would he interpret the celestial signs correctly? Could he explain the implications to a king who ruled with cruelty? The burden of potential consequences bore down on him like a heavy shroud. "Speak," Nebuchadnezzar shouted, his voice slicing through the tension as he rose from his throne. Indignation etched upon his face. "Who dares to disrupt my feast with riddles?" The figure stepped aside, granting Daniel a pathway to the throne. This was a test, a moment to unveil not just the secrets of Babylon, but of his own spirit. With every heartbeat guiding him, he walked forward, the murmurs of the banquet fading behind him, as clarity formed within. "What you hear tonight is not merely a prophecy. O king," he began, his voice steady amid the chaos of emotions. "What is unveiled will alter the course of your lineage, your kingdom. The stone that will strike the statue shall be more than a symbol. It shall embody the very essence of humility against pride." A collective gasp echoed through the room as the words took root. Daniel felt the weight of his ancestors, of the faithful who had gone before him. He reflected on how the true essence of leadership lay in servitude, how the gods demanded more than human ambition. As he spoke, he sensed a stirring within the gathering. Some were intrigued, others threatened. Nebuchadnezzar's gaze turned fiery, and Daniel could see the flicker of his decision forming a decision that would either elevate him or doom him. The heirloom of prophecy lingered unfulfilled in the balance, resting upon the hearts of the gathered, a single question echoing in the depths of time. How does one share truth without igniting conflict? In that moment, as Daniel finished his declaration, he felt an echo of the ancient stone entwined with the crown of kings, a reminder that both the exalted and the forsaken are bound by a singular fate. They all tread upon the same earth, subject to the whims of destiny that remained unknown. And as he stood before Nebuchadnezzar, the question loomed larger than the banquet's splendor and the king's fury. What will be the cost of enlightenment in a world blinded by pride? In the silence that followed Daniel's proclamation, the air crackled with tension. Nebuchadnezzar's fury simmered just below the surface, while murmurs intensified among his court. Disbelief clashed with intrigue. Daniel's heart raced, sensing the weight of both anticipation and dread. He stood at the precipice of revelation, aware that he was not merely speaking to a king, but to an entire civilization steeped in arrogance. "Who are you, boy, to claim knowledge of my empire's fate?" Nebuchadnezzar's voice cut through the lingering silence, a potent mixture of rage and incredulity. His throne, a seat of power draped in fine fabric and adorned with jewels, now seemed a fortress threatened. "You speak of a stone that shall dismantle what I have built. What folly is this, great king?" Daniel replied, fear coiling within him yet unapologetic. "The truth often stands alone, much like that humble stone. It need not shout. Its power lies in the quiet resolve of what it represents. History reveals to us patterns, and the threads of your kingdom's tapestry are indeed sewn with pride and cruelty." At this, a deeper silence enveloped the hall. The more prominent nobles exchanged scornful glances, but there were whispers of unease among the lower ranks, remembered tales of gods who had struck down the oppressors and lifted the meek. Daniel sought their comfort, knowing they were the bearers of a different story, one intertwined with hope. "You must ponder the truest nature of strength, O king," Daniel continued, emboldened by the flickering light surrounding him. "The pillars that hold high your reign may shatter when faced with the humility that comes from true wisdom." He gestured to the floor, where an unseen current seemed to swirl, a reminder that beneath luxury lay common earth, where every soul stood equal in their vulnerabilities. The figure that had spoken earlier shifted closer to Daniel, and its presence intensified, sending a shiver down his spine. "You wield truth like a sword, Daniel. Do not let it cut you down." It seemed to implore him, as if the weight of their shared destiny rested upon his words. That I end that moment, Nebuchadnezzar's gaze hardened, a storm brewing within. "What will it take for you to renounce this nonsense before my path? You tread dangerously close to treason." The echo of the king's words reverberated, as they reached into the souls of those present. Daniel scanned the crowd, seeking allies among the fearful and the doubtful. "Treason against what, I ask? The hidden truths that lay beneath the surface of your realm?" or against the very fabric of existence that binds us all. This struck a chord, a barely audible chord that seemed to vibrate through the air. But it was not enough to quell the king's ire. Instead, doubts from the surrounding nobility surfaced as whispers grew into hushed conversations, igniting concerns about loyalty, power, and the fragility of their extravagant lives. Enough! Nebuchadnezzar's voice boomed, a command fueled partly by desperation. You will explain your words to me, Daniel, or you will take your place among the stones of this palace as a silent witness to your own folly. Faced with this ultimatum, Daniel felt the essence of prophecy pulse through his veins. Here lay a decision between further revelations and potential devastation. But what wisdom could be shared without igniting the flames of wrath? He glanced at the figure beyond him, searching for guidance, but only the stillness met his gaze. Great king, he hesitated, weighing his words carefully. The future is not written in stone, and the heart of a ruler can change the course of destiny. Surrendering to wisdom does not equate to surrendering power. It is a calling to reign with justice, for there lies the true strength. As Daniel spoke these final words, he sensed the weight of time pressing upon them, the inevitable collision of choices yet to be made. Would Nebuchadnezzar listen and reflect, or would pride chase deeper reason into shadows unseen? Only silence greeted Daniel's plea, leaving him with one immutable thought echoing in. His heart was the choice to embrace truth, a gift or a curse within the throne room of an empire. In such a moment, what truth is worth the peril it invites? In the heavy silence draping the hall, Daniel's words hung like a fragile thread, wavering between hope and despair. Nebuchadnezzar's expression was a tempest of conflicting emotions, the remnants of his certainty now splintering against the weight of the unexpected truth. The court, once a spectacle of opulence, transformed into a court of grave watchfulness, as the balance of power swayed delicately in favor of the unknown. Justice? The king finally scoffed. Your words dance upon the tongue of folly, Daniel. Is that what you think fuels my reign? Justice? I have built this empire upon strength and conquest. His fists clenched, knuckles white against the gold of his throne. Would you lead me down the path of the meek? Yet beneath Nebuchadnezzar's anger, a hint of confusion lingered, a flicker of curiosity marred by the shadow of his pride. Daniel's heart stirred cautions of empathy. Perhaps within the king resided an ember of doubt, one that merely needed nurturing. Yet he sensed the danger of nurturing too closely. Majesty, Daniel ventured carefully. A ruler whose gaze is set solely on power may turn a blind eye to the cries for mercy and compassion that rise from the people. The foundation of your dominion may crumble if not anchored in the very truth that you fear to acknowledge. A momentary flicker of uncertainty coursed through the king's fierce demeanor, but Nebuchadnezzar was quick to mask it. Advisors! He thundered, glaring at those who stood rigid in their places. What say you? Does wisdom arise from shadows, or does it bring ruin upon those who dare to harbor its deceit? His voice echoed ominously as he surveyed the assembly. Gauging their responses, whispers stirred, a murmur of confusion and fear which crescendoed into a cacophony of opinions. Some clung to their loyalty to the king, while others, emboldened by a different sort of truth, began to question their ruler's authority. Among them, Daniel spotted a few who regarded him with glimmers of hope, their faces alight with the possibility that change could indeed unfurl even in the hearts of kings. Your Majesty, one advisor proffered nervously, our predecessors have carved the legacy of empires in stone. Yet we know from history that pride often leads to downfall. Wisdom, too, has its place among the rulers of men. His voice, though shaking, carried the weight of truth. Nebuchadnezzar's eyes narrowed, grappling with the tension that thrummed through the chamber. You would turn against me, claim the throne for the voice of reason? Stand not upon another's shoulders to deliver your sermon of humility. Let it be known, O king, that this is not about rising or falling, Daniel interjected, but about understanding the essence of our humanity. It is not only you on this throne. It is also the people who build the kingdom from the ground up. He gestured to the crowd below, breathing unity into the moment. What is a king without his people? and what is his legacy if marred by oppression? The arguments swirled around denial, a staunch river of passion flowing beneath the surface of a royal storm. The voices of his fellow advisors began to clash, split between adherence to the old ways and a longing for a fresh dawn. Yet amidst this tumult, Daniel felt the air grow thicker, as if the atmosphere had prayers woven into it, silent hopes from the weary hearts without titles. Nebuchadnezzar, tension taut within him, placed a hand over his heart, as if testing the pulse of his own power. And if I tread this path you suggest, Daniel, am I to risk my reign? Risk everything built upon blood and victory? Risk is but a vine, Daniel responded softly, his heart earnest. It bears bitter fruit when the roots are entangled in pride. Yet, should your hands unclench, the vine might yield sweet forgiveness and communal strength. Trust in the greater journey. The chamber fell to an eerie stillness, each heart beating a different rhythm, while the king contemplated the weight of his choices. As Daniel met his gaze, fear mingled with hope coursed through him. Thickened breaths filled the room, steeped in dread yet touched by desire for a transformed tomorrow. In that fragile moment, as destiny balanced on the tip of a scale, Daniel was left with one poignant thought. Was standing for truth an act of defiance or a deeper communion with divinity's design amidst the arrogance of kings? And what lay beyond the choices still unmade? As the silence stretched, a tension gripped the throne room like the tightening grasp of night before dawn. The corners of Nebuchadnezzar's eyes darkened, reflecting the storm brewing not only within his heart but across the expanse of his kingdom. In that moment of stillness, the echo of unvoiced thoughts filled the air, a cacophony of whispers weaving together the destinies of men and kingdoms. Truth, he finally murmured, his voice almost lost amidst the shadows. You speak of it as if it were an undying flame. But in my court, it often flickers, tethered to the whims of power and ambition. How can one trust in a light that has yet to reveal all its secrets? He leaned forward, a flicker of intrigue weaving into his skepticism. Daniel, sensing the wavering depths of the king's resolve, breathed deeply, gathering his thoughts as though preparing to navigate a treacherous sea. Majesty, consider this. The essence of truth is not only in what it reveals but also in what it compels us to question. Each secret, once revealed, carries the burden of understanding. In unearthing hidden things, both light and shadow beckon us to grow. What if the truth within you yearns for liberation, yearning to unshackle not only your soul but the souls of those entrusted to your reign? The king's visage softened momentarily, revealing a soul worn by the weight of his crown. And what if this quest for truth brings peril? Familiarity breeds comfort in the realm I command. What then shall I gain in this endeavor of honesty? Would not my subjects cower before the vulnerability it beckons? Or perhaps, O king, they would embrace you as a figure of strength that dares to lay bare his heart? Daniel urged with unwavering sincerity. Is it weakness to exhibit the soul's authentic strokes? Or is it the greatest act of courage? To show the realm that even a king bears the scars of humanity, striving alongside them through trials of their making? In that moment, the flickering torchlight danced along the walls, casting shadows that seemed to whisper forgotten truths of empire and humanity, a stark reminder of the narrative of many reigns, fading into oblivion due to the pride that separated them from their people. A rustle in the assembly reminded Daniel that an ember of change had been ignited. Yet even as the air thickened with possibilities, doubt crept in like a chill breeze. Nebuchadnezzar's gaze drifted to the flickering flames of the torches, as if seeking the answers in their warm glow. And in seeking this truth, how might it transform me? Daniel, how will I navigate this labyrinth of loyalty and doubt? Transformation, O king, is often born from vulnerability and honesty, Daniel replied, his tone unyielding yet gentle. In such a state, we give ourselves the gift of becoming instruments of providence. As you peel back the layers that shroud your heart, you might find that your greatest strength was hidden beneath the weight of your fears. The king, feeling the gravity of Daniel's words, closed his eyes momentarily, contemplating the myriad shadows dancing within him. The passage from fear to hope stirred deep within his spirit, a battle as ancient as the realms themselves. He felt the whispers of his ancestors beckoning him toward a reckoning. Would he honor their legacies by forging his own, one not shrouded by deceit and hoarding power? The voices in the hall became a distant hum, fading into the background, as Nebuchadnezzar stood at the precipice of his own heart, holding within his grasp the transformative passage that awaited. He pondered the cost of honesty, running his fingers along the gilded arms of his throne, a mere artifact of transient power. Anxious for permanence, in the delicate silence that followed, Daniel dared to ask, "And if the truth you find reveals the crossroad of your reign, will you be able to tread that path, acknowledging both the light and darkness that reside within?" The king reopened his eyes, locking onto Daniel's gaze. The weight of his decision pressed heavily upon him. Yet within that weight, seeds of curiosity grew. What potential lay ahead if he chose to step beyond the gilded cage of his own making? Could his reign become a testament not merely to conquest, but to understanding and compassion? As the murmurs swelled among the gathering, a profound question echoed in Daniel's heart. If the journey toward truth requires a navigation through fear, does it beckon forth the truest essence of leadership? And what tribulations must they endure before the dawn of a new understanding begins to bloom? As the flickering lights illuminated the anxious faces gathered before the king, Nebuchadnezzar felt the pulse of his own heart quicken. The air was electric with an anticipation that stirred not only in his throne room but reached into the depths of time, where old prophecies lingered, waiting to unfurl. "Daniel," the king spoke, voice echoing with weighted resolve, "if I delve deep into this truth you propose, what is to become of my realm? The fabric of power, stitched with threads of fear and submission, may unravel, leaving us adrift in the unknown." "Majesty," Daniel replied, his words steady yet compelling, "the unknown is where possibilities are birthed. In venturing beyond fear, you do not forsake your realm but rather transform it into a vessel of hope. Ask your heart what awaits within that realm of vulnerability." The assembled nobles' eyes wide, breaths held gripped their seats as both men stared across the chasm of differing worlds. One of privilege, the other of promise. The flickers of the torches seemed to sway, listening intently, as if the very soul of the kingdom leaned into this moment. Nebuchadnezzar's thoughts turned inward, wrestling with shadows that had long clouded his judgment. He recalled the tales whispered among the courtiers, stories of kings who had cared for their people, kings who had stepped down from thrones of stone and embraced the struggles of the lowly. It whispered of the fruits of humility, blessings exchanged for pride. How do I craft this new narrative? He pondered aloud. What path may lead me to the hearts of my subjects, who dwell beyond the ramparts? Will they welcome their king as one among them, or will they see me as a ghost of a bygone epoch? Your subjects, Daniel affirmed, hunger for authenticity. They need to know that their ruler shares in the burdens of existence. Speak with them, dwell among them, show them the truth of your heart, and they shall reciprocate with trust, forming bonds that render both kingdom and king stronger. The king's brow furrowed, then relaxed into contemplation. And what of the truth I fear may emerge? What if my heart bears secrets that shake the very foundation of my reign? Then you will face them, Your Majesty, Daniel replied, each word like a gentle reminder of the strength woven into vulnerability. Out of darkness springs forth light. Only by acknowledging the shadows can we walk fully into the dawn. This requires courage, but it is within that courage that providence shines brightest. As Nebuchadnezzar quieted his mind, the heart of his doubts began to thump in rhythm with a growing eagerness. A vivid image brushed against his consciousness, the image of a young boy, an orphan child he had seen in the marketplace. The boy wore a tattered cloak but possessed eyes filled with a luminescent spirit, unfettered by circumstance. How many such children wandered his streets, longing for a glimmer of hope? What if, he mused, these truths I might unveil inspire not just my people, but ignite a spark among the generations frozen in their own cages of fear? In that moment, amidst the shadows and flickering torches, a spark of determination ignited within him. Nebuchadnezzar began to envision a reign not of mere dominion but one empowered by understanding, empathy, and shared experience, a king walking beside his people rather than above them. As the tension surged in the air with newfound purpose, Daniel's voice softly cut through. Will you choose the light of this path? And if you do, what shadows will you confront? Aware that which we fear may also reveal our greatest legacy. The entire assembly held its breath, each soul feeling the weight of the moment, on the brink of a collective reckoning. Would their king embrace this formidable journey toward truth, or would he retreat into the safety offered by illusions? With every heartbeat thrumming with unspoken possibilities, a question loomed in the space between their hearts. If the journey toward truth unfolds a deeper understanding of our shared humanity, then what sacrifices must be made for a legacy rooted in light rather than power? As dawn broke, casting pale fingers of light into the throne room, Nebuchadnezzar stood, gazing blankly into the mesmerizing dance of the flames. The night had stirred deep reflections within him, and now he wrestled with the shadows that flickered behind his closed eyes. What did true leadership require? Was it simply the display of authority through might, or was there a gentle strength hidden within the embrace of vulnerability? His mind wandered back to the boy in the marketplace, eyes radiant, yet burdened by the weight of life he should not yet bear. Would he dare to plunge into the discomfort that came with understanding his subjects, of seeing them not just as faceless entities, but as intricate tapestries of unique stories? In a moment of boldness, the king decided he would venture beyond the confines of stone and marble that had walled him in for so long. He donned a simple cloak, casting aside the royal insignia that spoke of distance and power. Today, he would walk among his people. That as he took to the streets, the bustling city greeted him with a cacophony of sounds: the laughter of children, the aroma of baked bread wafting from the market, and the hum of trade as merchants engaged with their customers. Initially, the echoes of his footsteps echoed loudly, and he felt keenly the distance between the crown on his head and the humble lives around him. Upon reaching the marketplace, a slight tremor ran through him as he passed by the very boy who had sparked this journey. As their eyes met, the child's curious gaze shifted to one of recognition. An unspoken connection emerged between them in that fleeting moment. But the boy quickly turned back, seemingly not recognizing the figure now stripped of his royal airs. Nebuchadnezzar took a breath, feeling the warmth of the crowd envelop him. "What do you see when you look at me?" he called out, his voice surprising even himself with its steadiness. The people around him paused, a ripple of confusion passing through the throng. Was this yet another proclamation, or simply a man beneath a cloak? A vendor leaned forward and replied cautiously, "A traveler, perhaps? Do you seek the market's goods?" "I seek more than goods," he answered, stepping closer, his heart pounding with each word. "I seek stories. Tell me, what burdens weigh upon your hearts? What truths dwell in the shadows?" The response was varied, full of hesitation and doubt. One man spoke of taxes that crushed the livelihood of his family. Another woman shared her grief over a child lost to sickness. And then the voice of an elder rose, frail yet piercing. "And what of our king? Does he know we exist? Does he hear the cries of his people?" The question hung in the air like a mantle of steel. Nebuchadnezzar's breath caught in his throat. Had he truly remained a ghost in their lives? He had spent so long establishing his power that he had forgotten the responsibility of understanding those who looked to him for compassion and guidance. "I am here to listen," he answered softly. "I am here to bear witness to your struggles, so that I may carry them with me and strive to create a reign not of fear but of healing." As the conversations unfolded, Nebuchadnezzar felt the enormity of their stories ripple through him. Each tale struck a chord that resonated with the fears he had harbored himself, amplifying a realization that perhaps he was not only their king but also one of them. Each shared sorrow etched a deeper understanding into his being, instilling a resolve to tear down the walls he had erected. He stepped back into the shadows of the city. Nebuchadnezzar felt a profound shift within himself. But lingering at the edges of this awakening were questions shrouded in uncertainty. With each step away from power, he grappled with the weight of revelation that accompanied it. If embracing the truth was the path he chose, then what sacrifices would he ultimately confront, and what unseen forces might rise to oppose the unity he sought to forge? Would the light illuminate a future of healing, or would it cast shadows from the past that he had not yet been ready to face? As the day slipped into twilight, the setting sun kissed the horizon, where the deepening purples and oranges mingled like the many voices that now echoed in Nebuchadnezzar's mind. Each step through the bustling streets had unveiled layers of life, revealing the struggles and joys that simmered beneath the surface of his kingdom. It was as if he had stepped into a hidden world, where the fabric of existence was woven not just from material wealth or political power, but from the hearts of a people yearning for connection and understanding. Returning to the palace, Nebuchadnezzar felt an unfamiliar weight settling upon his shoulders. The grand halls, once a comfort wrapped in luxury, now felt like gilded cages that held him at a distance from the very essence of his role as king. In his heart, a war raged between the majesty of his station and the newfound humility that had unfolded amidst the simplicity of shared experiences. That as he stepped into his chamber, the flickering candlelight illuminated a collection of scrolls piled upon a weathered desk. The book of Daniel lay atop them, its cover worn yet inviting, as if whispering secrets of divine wisdom and profound truths. Nebuchadnezzar hesitated, recalling the boy's innocent yet piercing gaze, and the elder's question that reverberated in his thoughts. If he were to lead this people toward healing, he needed not only empathy but also insight. With trembling hands, he unfurled the scroll, revealing the prophetic visions penned by Daniel. The words leapt from the pages, laden with meanings untold and revelations yet to come. As he read, the soft murmurs of the past echoed visions of empires rising and falling, celestial beings conveying messages that transcended mortal understanding, and the promise of a kingdom everlasting that came not through conquest, but through faith and humility. His mind was gripped by the thought of the world beyond his sight, a realm where heaven intertwined with earth. The visions depicted not only the turmoil within nations but also the struggle within men's souls. "What truth do you seek from me, O Daniel's God?" he whispered into the dimness, feeling both a call and a challenge within his own spirit as night deepened. Nebuchadnezzar's thoughts raced. He recalled the stories shared in the marketplace, the dreams of preventing loss, the wishes for healing, the desire for a king who would bear their burdens. Could it be that Daniel's prophecies pointed toward the very path he now hesitated to embrace? The path that aligned with a leadership that resonated beyond power, rooted in love, trust, and mutual respect. But questions lingered in the silence. Who would he become if he fully surrendered to the tenderness of vulnerability? What forces would rise to contest this new governance born from understanding? Would he face scorn from those who thrived within the constructs of fear? And would his people accept the shift, or would they long for the mighty king adorned in gold, who was feared more than loved? The walls around him, once empowering, now loomed like barriers of insecurity should he dare to breach them, or would they close in, ensnaring his spirit? For every revelation brought forth from the pages held the potential for transformation, but also the threat of upheaval. As the candle sputtered low, casting dancing shadows upon the walls, Nebuchadnezzar felt the urgency within his heart, an invitation to step into the unknown. He pondered the weight of the future, suspended precariously on the balance of choice. What if embracing the discomfort of truth was the key to unlocking a healing that stretched to the very fabric of his kingdom? In that stillness of night, a question hovered, haunting as the flickering flame. Could he cultivate a reign of healing while battling the ghosts of expectation, and in doing so, would he find redemption not just for himself, but for a people yearning to be known? As dawn broke, the sun spilled over the horizon, casting light upon the palace that had, until now, been shrouded in shadows. Nebuchadnezzar, with the book of Daniel still fresh in his mind, found himself wandering the marble corridors, each step echoing the silent stirrings of a heart yearning for purpose. The air was cool, mixed with the scent of blooming fig trees from the garden, a fragrant reminder of life outside his self-crafted walls. In the midst of these reveries, he was met by the court's chief advisor, a man cloaked in traditions and tethered to the throne's conventional ways. "Your Majesty," the advisor exclaimed, bowing low, "the council awaits your command for today's proceedings. Shall we continue with the preparations for the festival of Marduk?" The mention of Marduk struck a chord within Nebuchadnezzar. His mind flickered back to Daniel's teachings, to the truth of a God who sought not lavish altars of gold but the humble worship found in sincere hearts. Could the festival truly honor the divine will? Or was it merely a facade? A distraction from the genuine spiritual awakening he felt stirring within? Postpone the festival, he declared, the words tumbling from his lips with an unexpected authority. Instead, I wish to gather together all those who carry the weight of burdens, the merchants struggling with debt, the laborers yearning for fair wages, the families torn apart by fear. We will share our stories and listen to one another. The advisor's eyes widened in shock, disbelief etched upon his face. But, my king, we have never approached the festival in such a way. The gods enough, Nebuchadnezzar interrupted, the weight of his own uncertainty cloaked beneath a newfound determination. It is time for a reckoning both of our customs and our hearts. We cannot honor false gods while our people suffer. As he stepped away, leaving the advisor trembling in the wake of his decision, Nebuchadnezzar felt a swell of both fear and exhilaration. The future loomed ahead, tinged with uncertainty. Would this gathering of souls unveil healing, or would it lead to discord among those vested in the established order? The lines between power and love blurred, yet Nebuchadnezzar was resolute. No longer would he trap himself within gilded walls. He would lay his heart bare. The morning passed quickly with the calling of his people. As they gathered, tentative yet hopeful, stories began to weave together, each voice a thread contributing to the tapestry of their collective experience. The cries of a widow longing for sustenance mingled with the laughter of a child once lost to despair, returning with tales of unified strength. There were stories of betrayal, hope, and the fearful longing for assurance in the uncertain. Nebuchadnezzar listened intently, allowing their truths to wash over him. Each confession bore its own weight, creating a fabric of vulnerability that built a bridge between the throne and the hearts of the citizens. They shared fears crafted from years of living under the shadow of tyranny and dreams hovering just beyond reach. Yet, amidst the blossoming unity, a tempest roared within the king. As he moved among his people, a whisper reminded him of the looming disdain of his advisors and commanders who clung tightly to the veil of control. How would they respond to this new order? Would his pursuit of connection threaten his reign? Would the council accept his shifting vision, or would they seek to undermine it, dismissing him as a foolish king who had forsaken tradition for empathy? The gathering's warmth was a balm against his uncertainties, and with every exchange, he felt the flicker of hope grow. A vision danced in the periphery of his mind, a united kingdom, where each voice held resonance, where love bridged divides, and humility found its place alongside wisdom. But as the dusk enveloped the gathering, a question flickered in the depth of his soul, mirroring the uncertainty of the shadows creeping along the palace walls. In seeking to unite his people in shared understanding and compassion, would he ultimately be pulling down the very structures of power that had defined his reign, or, perversely, would this new path demand greater strength than he had ever known? As night fell around the gathered throngs in the appointed space of the palace courtyard, a tapestry of voices enveloped Nebuchadnezzar, weaving narratives rich with pain and resilience. Each testament spoke not merely of individual burdens but of a collective yearning for understanding, a hunger that had been neglected for too long within the gilded confines of power. The sounds danced through the air, a symphony of raw emotions, echoing back the truths that had long stayed locked away in shadows. Nebuchadnezzar moved amongst his people, realizing that every little story shared was like a seed planted in the soil of his heart, a heart that had only recently begun to lift its gaze from the cushioned throne of authority to witness the vibrant life of the streets he ruled. His hands extended towards the mournful, the joyous, and the downtrodden alike, inviting them to share. The flickering torchlight illuminated faces once shadowed by fear and sorrow, now shimmering with a newfound hope. Someone began to sing a song of loss interwoven with longing. Other voices intertwined, and the song lifted into a poignant harmony, filling Nebuchadnezzar's spirit to bursting. He felt the reality of their experiences wash over him, fear mixed with awakening, and a single realization began to settle profoundly in the depths of his soul. The measure of a king was not in the iron grip of his rule, but in the gentleness of his heart. As the chorus faded into silence, Nebuchadnezzar laid his hands upon the shoulders of his people, sensing the heartbeat of his kingdom beneath his fingers. He stood taller, letting their strength fill him. "We are bound together," he called out, his voice firm yet laced with an unexpected tenderness. Bound not merely by the crowns of stone we wear or the titles we carry, but by the souls that pulse with dreams across each corner of our land. All of us, the nobles, the laborers, the widowed, and the children, are tethered in our shared humanity. A hushed awe swept over the crowd, a moment suspended in time where the weight of his words seemed to quell the storms of uncertainty, even if only for a heartbeat. In that breath, Nebuchadnezzar understood the true miracle of leadership lies not in one's ability to command, but in one's capacity to listen, to truly hear the symphony of voices yearning not for fear's dominion, but for love's embrace. Yet as new warmth swirled among the onlookers, an icy realization struck the king's heart. What would those who thrived in the old regime think of this new direction? As he peered into the gathering, certain faces remained unyielding, skepticism casting shadows across their brows. Could he embrace this new path without facing the consequences of those still trapped within the antiquated chains of pride? What if my attempts to unify lead not to a kingdom healed, but to my own downfall? He pondered, the flickering shadows of doubt creeping back into his mind. It was the same fear he had felt before, a harbinger that had gripped him during the remnants of his conversation in the throne room. Would they rise against him? Would peace and healing crumble into chaos against the backdrop of his newly forged empathy? Just then, amidst the throng, a young woman stepped forth, a laborer, her dress simple yet dignified, her eyes bright yet brimming with awe. She raised her voice above the murmur of the crowd, infused with courage and conviction. "O King, we have hungered not only for fair wages or the comforts of security, but for the acknowledgement of our humanity. Your heart beats with sincerity, and it urges us to embrace this hope together. Would you join us in reclaiming our legacy, one that rises from the ashes of tyranny into a future woven with kindness? Let us reshape our kingdom together." Her words resonated, thundering against the stones of the palace walls. Instinctively, Nebuchadnezzar remembered a passage from Daniel's scroll, a vision of a powerful stone striking the feet of a great image, toppling the very foundations of a flawed kingdom. That in that moment, he recognized that healing would not come through mere declarations of unity, nor through casting aside his role as king. Instead, it demanded that he balance authority with empathy. He must learn to inhabit the strength of vulnerability, allowing compassion to guide his reign as a newfound stone, the humble stone of faith that could bring down the empires built upon avarice and injustice. As murmurs of encouragement cascaded through the audience, Nebuchadnezzar stepped forward, fueled with purpose. "Gather with me, my people. I do not seek to stand above you, but beside you. Let us build this kingdom anew, not upon the columns of oppression, but on the shores of understanding and justice. I vow to become the king of compassion, whose reign shall be marked by the strength drawn from humility, a light that brings healing to all." As he declared this, a gasp slipped through the crowd, swirling into a wave of admiration. The presence of the divine surged around him, as radiant spirits seemed to descend from the heavens and fill the space between worlds. Beneath their watchful eyes, Nebuchadnezzar felt the warmth of hope. It cast away apprehensions and fears, illuminating the path forward. The reverberations of his commitment struck a chord far beyond the kingdom, echoing across the vast landscape of history itself. The foundations of empires tumbling from unwarranted pride would usher in a new dawn, a testament that leaders can rise not through exploits of power but through love's transformative grasp. That in that moment of collective unity, a remarkable revelation unfolded. The king, as he chose to walk with his people, was not merely lifting them but was elevating his very spirit. Each soul that gathered around him held within them the power to embrace a new legacy, a legacy rooted not in fear, but in harmony. And with that understanding, Nebuchadnezzar realized his greatest strength lay not in wielding iron, but in forging connections through shared humanity. That as night fell upon the gathering, two worlds, a world of desperation and another of possibility, began to intertwine seamlessly. The glowing lights of courage and hope illuminated their path, reflecting the profound truth that even the mightiest of kings could find their heart's redemption amongst the humility of their people. In this sacred moment, both king and kingdom turned to face the horizon, ready to embark on a transformative journey toward a shared destiny, one where the true essence of holiness unveiled itself not through ritual, but through the unyielding embrace of love for one another, a commitment forever imprinted upon the very fabric of existence. As the last vestiges of twilight surrendered to night, they stood resolute, bathed in the gentle glow of possibility, ready to travel the road toward an everlasting peace, the stone of hope that would illuminate the darkest of times, magnifying the simplest yet most profound truth that binds the universe together. We are each other's salvation. And therein lay the reverberating answer. The inquiry of faith and reflection echoed within them all. How do we choose to build our stories? In darkness or in light?